Welcome to the Madison Millert Podcast. Today is Friday, March 13th, 2020. Today I'm going to continue the aftermath of the coronavirus and what has been canceled and what not. NFL free agency, rumors and notes I want to get to before I end the show. And a couple of notes around some sports shows and possible reality show cancellations and whatnot as well. So let's start the aftermath of the continue aftermath of the coronavirus cancellations. The biggest one that's come out since I last recorded has been the Masters. As well as the cancellation of a couple tournaments prior to the Masters. So the Masters is getting postponed to the summer. And they canceled the Players' Championship, or everything from the Players' Championship to the Valero Open. So that's all canceled, but the Masters is being postponed. So that's a big deal. They're going to postpone it to the summer. So that's going to also be in the possible big-time sports summer. That's going to be the silver lining of all this, where you're going to have Major League Baseball, the Masters, and the continuations of the NBA and the NHL seasons. So this is going to be an absolute crazy summer. So that's going to be the silver lining in all this. And then it's going to go right into college football and the NFL, assuming that those leagues resume what they're doing. The Masters postponement is good for Tiger Woods, in my opinion, so he can rest up his injury a little bit and get healthy for the Masters. So I think if there's a silver lining in this, is that the best golfer of my lifetime, Tiger Woods, will end up being healthy for the Masters. So that is good for Tiger Woods, and that's good that they're still going to have the Masters. NASCAR has postponed their next two races in Atlanta and in Homestead after they initially announced that they were going to race in front of no fans. So I think NASCAR did the right thing by following suit of the other sports. And initially golf was going to have their tournaments played with empty stadiums too, but they changed course as well. So I think NASCAR, good job on them. No dates have been officially in terms of when they're going to reschedule. I think the next race that would potentially be coming up for NASCAR after the two cancellations for the race that was supposed to be on March 15th and then on March 22nd would be March 29th at, I believe it's Bristol. So I think that would potentially be the next NASCAR race as of right now. But I kind of doubt that. I think they'll probably postpone Bristol too. But the big takeaway of this is, assuming things are back to the reality or normal reality by Mother's Day, then for once they're going to have to race on Mother's Day unless there's a Saturday night race planned for the Saturday night prior to Mother's Day. So that is a possible thing for NASCAR to keep an eye out for. Another thing that was announced as in terms of a postponement was the Boston Marathon. It's going to be postponed until September 14th. The thing that conflicts with that is that there's going to be a Monday Night Football game on that day. So that is like the only weird thing about it. It's going to be during football season. I think that's a little bizarre. But the weather would be still nice enough, but it would be nicer in September than it would be in April weather-wise. They'll probably have a Red Sox day game on that day rather than a night game. I think the MLB, by the way, is going to come out with a new schedule in light of all this. So I think some interleague games will be taken away, maybe a couple division series. So we shall see. I think that there's going to be less off days in terms of baseball. So obviously it's on the baseball subject because the Boston Red Sox obviously play a matinee game the day of the Boston Marathon. So I believe the Red Sox will be having a day game on September 14th when they have the Boston Marathon, and everything will be cleared up by then at least. So that's some news within sports-wise. And now I want to discuss some sports shows that are being suspended right now due to the coronavirus. So it came out today that Fox Sports suspended the likes of Skip Bayless's show. I'm blanking on the name of their show here. And then Lock It In, which is the gambling show. Undisputed Skip Bayless show. That was it. Lock It In. Like all those shows that are daily during the week on Fox Sports 1 have all been suspended for a couple of weeks. So Fox Sports is probably going to re-air a bunch of old games and whatnot. A lot of classics, just like ESPN's doing. NBA TV, I noticed, was re-airing Lakers Clippers from opening night. So Fox Sports had a statement. Fox Sports' priority first and foremost is the health and safety of everyone. We fully support our league partners and actively working with the team to navigate this evolving and unprecedented situation. So all their shows, Undisputed, suspended, Lock It In, and all the other big-time shows on Fox Sports 1. And then this opens up a Pandora's box in terms of reality shows that could possibly be impacted by this, such as Fox's own The Masked Singer and Lego Masters, which I discuss on this podcast every Wednesday and Thursday, and I preview and recap each show. Lego Masters obviously was taped prior to the season because it's brand new. Masked Singer apparently is taped a week before it's aired. Meanwhile, it used to in season 1 was taped 9 or 8 months prior to when it actually aired in January, February of 2019. So they aired it or taped it in April and May of 2018, according to Joey Fatone on a podcast he did with his agent. So, and then they moved it, or they changed it because of the secrecy. A lot of people that were in the stage audience would not keep their mouths shut, and blew the secrets of the identities in the first and even a little bit of the second season. So I think they changed their rules, maybe even before season 2, about the secrecy of their show. So I wonder if they're going to suspend the tapings of The Masked Singer. I saw a commercial last night on a Fox network that there'll be a new episode on Wednesday, but I would be curious to see a statement come out about a possible suspension of the show, and they suspend the taping and whatnot and resume taping when this is all blown over. And then The Masked Singer would potentially be on in the summer as well, and then probably delay season 4. So I think Lego Masters is safe, but Masked Singer is not in terms of their possible airings of their shows. So with the news of the Fox Sports shows being suspended, I think that's concerning for The Masked Singer, because it's obviously Fox as well. So I think that's a little concerning, obviously, for them. Alrighty, now I want to discuss American Idol. That show, obviously, their auditions were taped in the fall and then even in the summer. So I'm not sure if they're going to delay the airings of their auditions. If anything, they'll probably delay the top 24 and the top 12, like when it gets lowered by the contestants, because obviously the top 24 and top 12 are aired live. I think they do it differently now than they did back then, but obviously that's what it was back then when Fox had it, but with the ABC format, it's different. So once it goes live, I think they'll postpone that until the summertime too. So summertime's gonna feel like spring in terms of how much stuff is on and whatnot. And these summer, fall, into the next winter and spring is gonna be crazy, because the NHL and NBA off seasons might be shorter, but I do think they will shorten the preseason into going into the next season, and then play a regular or normal regular season, but shorten the preseason. That's my prediction for the NHL and the NBA when it comes to that stuff in the future. Okay, now I want to talk about a little NFL free agency news that broke throughout the day and even yesterday. The Minnesota Vikings have cut 2 players that are big names, Xavier Rhodes and Linval Joseph. Linval Joseph, obviously the big man in the middle in their front 7. So he's a free agent. Xavier Rhodes is coming off a terrible season. They released him. So now he's a free agent. I wonder if somebody is going to lowball Xavier Rhodes, and Rhodes takes the offer and has a good bounce back season. I think that's in play, and I think he can have a bounce back season next year. Obviously, he probably won't be playing for the Minnesota Vikings. So 2 big name players added to the free agent market, along with Tom Brady and a bunch of other guys, Melvin Gordon, Dak Prescott, because he hasn't been franchise tagged yet. You also have Jameis Winston as a free agent, Phillip Rivers. As far as I'm concerned, free agency is still apparently on for March 18th, that Wednesday. So that's good news for the most part. So at least we have something to follow on the podcast. I might actually do a free agency predictions podcast on Monday, as well as the latest on some stuff. And then Wednesday, I'll do a show, maybe latest rumors and whatnot. And then maybe I will do a show Thursday, a special NFL free agency edition of the show on Thursday, and go over all the signings thus far, or up to that point, and then do the same on Friday. And then I won't do a show on St. Patrick's Day, Tuesday, because I announced yesterday that I am eliminating the shows while sports is on break. If NFL free agency still goes on, I'll do a special show on Thursday, recapping the signings as thus far and whatnot. The Los Angeles Chargers franchise tagged Hunter Henry, so he'll remain with the team for at least one more season. I think that was a good move by the Los Angeles Chargers, especially if they are serious about signing Tom Brady. So that's interesting. There's some other big name players that were released and franchise tagged today as well. But yeah, Hunter Henry, somebody that really hasn't been healthy a lot over the past couple of seasons, and obviously the Chargers are high on him. The Chargers, to me, are a quarterback away from being a contender in the AFC. I think Tom Brady would be a big help for them. Tom Brady may be washed, but I think the issue is that we may have overrated the Patriots supporting staff, as Rob Gronkowski retired, Julian Edelman's been injury prone, Mohamed Sanu wasn't a good fit there, he was a bust, and a lot of those young receivers didn't pan out last year, like N'Keal Harry. Jacoby Myers had flashes, but he wasn't consistent. And then you had the tight end that obviously was a drop-off from Gronk, Ben Watson. So it could be the lack of skill offensively for Tom Brady's weapons with New England, or it could be simple as Tom Brady's washed. I think that is the most fascinating thing going into next season, if Tom Brady is indeed on a new team. So another news item, the Jaguars have franchise tagged pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue. He's obviously somebody that was very open about not wanting to play for the Jaguars anymore. I think the Jaguars are the front runner for Tank for Trevor for next year. They still have the Nick Foles contract. And he obviously was terrible last year and he was hurt. Gardner Minshew had ups and downs throughout the season last year, but I don't think he's the answer going forward. I think Ngakoue is a trade candidate. I think the New York Giants would be interested. The New York Jets would be interesting for him. There's a couple teams that stand out to me that need pass rushers. The New England Patriots, I think, can pull off a trade for him, and I would obviously, if they pull that off before free agency begins, then that's their stand for Tom Brady. Like, I think every team in the mix in the Tom Brady sweepstakes, including New England, every move they make prior is big. Like, the Chargers franchise tagging Hunter Henry and trading for Trey Turner was big. New England making a move to make themselves better is big. Anything Indy does, although it looks like that they're the front runners for Phillip Rivers, anything they do is massive. Anything the Bucs do is massive. And I think this is going to be like an NBA free agency for the NFL because of the availability of Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers. The Lions are releasing Rick Wagner. So Detroit clearing up some cap space there. The Tennessee Titans cut Delanie Walker and Ryan Succop. I think those were surprising moves. Walker and Succop, obviously, two players that were really good players for the Tennessee Titans. Succop was one of the best fantasy and just kickers in the league. And Walker is somebody that's been injury prone of late. So those are two big moves. And that's another, every move this team makes is big, is the Tennessee Titans, because I think they're in play for Tom Brady as well. And then we talked about the Vikings cutting Rhodes and Joseph. The Chargers and Denzel Perryman agreed to terms on a restructured contract. So he's good to go for next year. The Bengals released Cordy Glenn, so that's a solid offensive tackle hitting the market. Cincinnati tried to trade him, but because of his salary, they just flat out cut him. So anybody who needs a offensive lineman, Cordy Glenn. I know he wasn't great last year, but the Bengals weren't great. Let's be honest. I think him on a better team would benefit him. He obviously was a good starter in Buffalo. Then Buffalo traded him. And then I think Buffalo, by the way, shouldn't have traded him in the first place because their offensive line isn't that good, and they traded away their best lineman. And then he didn't pan out in Cincinnati, and now he's a free agent. So, well, maybe New England picks him up. Maybe the New York Giants look at him. And by the way, I'm surprised that the New York Giants didn't cut Nate Solder. I felt like he was a cut candidate for them because he obviously was a free agent flop. They ended up cutting a former free agent flop, or trade flop, by the way, in Alec Ogletree. That didn't work out for them. He certainly wasn't the best fit with the Giants. I'm surprised they didn't cut Nate Solder to clear more cap room. I know they have a lot of cap space. They're one of the front runners to signing Byron Jones, who obviously was a Cowboy. It's funny because reportedly the front runners for him are the Giants and the Eagles, and obviously both those teams are in the NFC East. So that would be a big loss for the Cowboys in their secondary. He is arguably, or was arguably, their best defensive back. So that would be a humongous loss for the Dallas Cowboys if he were to leave them. But they need to at least try to extend Dak Prescott, unless they get into Tom Brady sweepstakes, which people have talked about that before. The Denver Broncos placed a franchise tag on Justin Simmons. John Elway said that his focus for him is a long-term deal. Simmons was good last year in Denver, so I think he deserved the franchise tag. And the Broncos also just traded for A.J. Boyd. That could be a dark horse team going into the NFL season for next year. I like Drew Lock. I think he has a chance to be the breakout second-year quarterback of this season like Lamar Jackson was last year. But normally, if who could be like the Lamar Jackson of next year, it's a team that's expectations aren't high. Like the Ravens didn't have high expectations last year. Everybody and their brother loved the Browns or the Steelers in that division last year, like me. A couple of my podcast guests from the summer, like Jeff Burns and Steven Lieberman, said or picked the Ravens to win that division, and said, don't forget this team won it last year. And credit to them that they didn't buy into the hype of the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So obviously the team has to have lower expectations. The quarterback would have to have shaky moments in his rookie season, which Locke did, and so did Daniel Jones, and so did Dwayne Haskins. But the quarterback that fits that Lamar Jackson build the most might be Daniel Jones, because Lamar Jackson had a lot of fumbles his rookie season and also came in late in the middle of the season and took over for the overpaid quarterback. And that's what Daniel Jones did, except Daniel Jones went in there earlier than Lamar Jackson. So could be Daniel Jones. It's either going to be Daniel Jones or Drew Lock, that the heir to breakout quarterback, unless the Redskins make some nice moves in free agency. Or it could be Dwayne Haskins unless they draft Tua. And that's another crazy story that I want to talk about. The Redskins possibly taking Tua or trading down instead of taking Chase Young. If we knew Tua was 100% healthy, then the Redskins can talk themselves into it. I think healthy or not, it's a risk, because what if Dwayne Haskins, what if they get rid of him and he goes somewhere else and becomes a star? What if Indy strikes out on Rivers and strikes out on Brady? Brady goes back to New England and Phillip Rivers goes to the Bucs. And Jameis Winston signs with the Chargers. And Indy strikes out on all the quarterbacks. Do they potentially make a trade for Dwayne Haskins if the Redskins take Tua, and could be like the Dolphins a little bit, like how the Dolphins traded for Josh Rosen? Except obviously the Dolphins were tanking for Tua Tagovailoa, and they might end up getting Tua anyway, even though they didn't land the first pick, and Tua ended up getting hurt this season. And there's obviously going to be teams tanking for Trevor Lawrence, potentially like the Jaguars. The Titans potentially, if they miss out on Brady and if Tannehill regresses. I think other teams that we're not thinking of can join the party. Like, I was going to say the Saints, but they have Taysom Hill, but it won't be them. Maybe Atlanta if Matt Ryan has a Joe Flacco 2018-esque season where he's benched for somebody else. Teams with young quarterbacks I don't think are in play for Trevor Lawrence. Unless if that young quarterback gets injured and tears his ACL or has a really, 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 really bad year 2 or year 3. So I would write off the Giants. I wouldn't write off the Redskins because you're hearing them rumored for Tua. So I'm writing off the Giants. I'm writing off the Green Bay Packers because Aaron Rodgers is still there. And I don't think they would get rid of Aaron Rodgers and tank a season. Wouldn't rule out the Vikings because Kirk Cousins is in a contract year next year. and maybe like they decide to tank, but who knows? I don't think they would do that because they still have a lot of good players on their team. Another team I just simply cannot see doing it is the Saints. The Panthers are certainly a candidate, especially if they trade Christian McCaffrey. I do not think the San Francisco 49ers are a candidate unless if Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt again or regresses. I don't think the Seahawks are a candidate. They're definitely not a candidate, the Seattle Seahawks. I do not think the New York Jets are a candidate. I do not think that the Buffalo Bills are a candidate. I do not think that the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs are candidates. And I don't think the Denver Broncos are candidates. Everybody else, I think, is a tank for Trevor possibility if things were to go wrong or whatnot. But that list could grow in terms of they're not in tank for Trevor mode if whomever signs Tom Brady, if the Cowboys extend Prescott. Like, there's a lot of possibilities that could happen, and that would take that respective team out of the running. The Ravens placed a franchise tag on Matt Judon. He's somebody that's been in trade rumors. They're obviously clearing cap space so they can eventually sign Lamar Jackson to a long-term deal. You know, that's the worst kept secret. It's just like KC with Mahomes, although they made the trade for Chris Jones, who's also on the trade market, and they're trading him away. Why? Because they want to keep Patrick Mahomes around. Like, you're going to be seeing like these teams with young quarterbacks that break out, trading players away so they could prepare to sign their young quarterbacks to long-term contracts. So that's it for today. I'll be back on Monday afternoon with the latest news and whatnot from the sports world, any free agency rumors, any NBA, NHL latest. And another thing I forgot to mention was that the XFL canceled their season, so we don't see the XFL again until next year. That's something that came out after I recorded yesterday. So that's that, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, everybody.